Well, we're continuing with the story of the Carroll and Beulah Campbell family, and we've interviewed Uncle Ed, Aunt Johnny, my daddy Gene Campbell, Aunt Eunice, Uncle Maurice, and now we get down to the last three sons, and this is a great picture. I like this one because this shows them when they were very young and singing in a gospel group called the Campbell Junior Quartet. From left to right is Uncle Joe, and then in the front there is Uncle Maney, and then on the right side is Uncle W.C. We're going to be talking to him next. The fellow standing behind there is, I believe, Frank Jones, a friend of theirs that sang with them in the Campbell Junior Quartet. Now this little fella here, contrary to popular belief, is not a childhood picture of Clark Gable. But there are those who thought that this young man grew up to be a movie star, and we'll be talking to him in just a few minutes. No, actually this is W.C. Campbell. We always call him Uncle W.C., and his real name is Walter Clark Campbell. We're going to be talking with him here in just a few minutes and maybe get some input from him on what his life has been like. Well, here we are. This is April the 25th, 1987. Is that right?
Right.
And I'm here with my Uncle W.C. What does the W.C. stand for?
Walter Clark.
Walter Clark Campbell, right?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
And we're down. I finally tracked you down.
Yeah.
You were the hardest one to track down.
I'm still a little busier than the others do.
To make it extra dollars, right?
I got to. You tell them.
Well, I finally tracked Uncle W.C. down at his rent house down here in. Is this considered Dickinson or what?
Yes, it's in Dickinson, Texas.
Okay. What I want to do today is just talk to you a little bit about yourself, and I think if the people start that lawnmower up, we're going to be in trouble. Hang on just a second here. Okay, I think we got that all cleared up now. Right. Testing, we're still here.
Yeah, testing.
Okay. Let's talk about you just a little bit. Where were you born?
I was born up in a little town up in East Texas called Center, Texas.
Near Shelby County, right?
It is in Shelby County.
I asked Uncle W.C. what, because I was a little confused on what Shelby County and Center was, and he said, well, one's a city and one's a county.
That's right. Center happened to be the county seat.
Oh, really?
As far as Shelby County, yeah.
Well, I wasn't born up there. I've been back there a number of times, of course, but I didn't really understand what the relationship was there. I think most of the family was born there in Center, weren't they?
All of my family was. My mother and daddy and all my brothers and sisters and everything were born there.
Do you remember when you moved to Houston?
Buddy, I think it was approximately either 1936 or 1937.
Okay, and about how old were you?
I was about six, maybe 7.
So you really didn't go to school or anything in Center?
Yeah, I went to Center Elementary School maybe 1 year.
Oh, really?
But that would be the max.
And then you came to Houston and went to what schools here?
When we first came to Houston, we lived on North Side, and I went to a little elementary school called Lamar.
Lamar, okay. And then you went
and
to
then
what?
we moved to East End, and from there I attended Franklin Elementary and Edison Junior High, and then Milby Senior High.
Okay, and went to Milby High School. Some of them went to Jeff Davis, I think.
Yeah, my brother Joe and Manny went to Jeff Davis. And in fact, actually, my oldest brother Ed and my oldest sister Johnny went to Davis.
Yeah, right. Now, when you got out of high school, what did you do?
Well, my dad told me I was going to either go to work or go to school, so I picked the work instead of school.
What did you do?
Well, I started working with him in a truck line for Central Freight Lines, and
I think a lot of you did that, didn't you?
Oh yeah, at one time or another, I believe all of us did.
Yeah.
And
did you drive a truck or what?
oh yeah, I eventually got. I was so young and everything when I first started, they wouldn't let me drive. But then after a couple of years, I was driving just like I guess like the rest of the guys.
Right. Well, now I know that you went into service. I had a picture of you earlier that you were in the Air Force or what?
I was in the Air Force.
How old were you when you went in the service?
I went in the Air Force when I was 22, and I did 4 years of active duty and 4 years reserve duty.
I see.
And I was a tail gunner on B-29s during that period.
Oh, really? So you saw some action, huh?
No, not really. I didn't see any action. I flew over Korea 3 times.
Depends on what you call action, right?
Yeah, because I was fortunate enough when I went over there, they had quit flying daylight missions.
Oh,
and
really?
they was knocking them out of the sky during daylight, but at night we was very fortunate.
I see. I see. Well, then you came back. You got out of the service in what year about?
I got out of the service and I left active duty in 1956, and then I came back to my previous employment when I was in the service with Phillips Petroleum.
I see. Now, in talking with Daddy and Uncle Joe, at one time, several of you worked out there.
Yeah, your daddy, I, and Uncle Joe, all 3 of us.
I see. And then you worked at Phillips for a number of years. I know you got married there along the way and had a daughter.
Yeah.
What was her name?
Carolyn.
Caroline. And she
Yeah.
lives where now?
She's a resident of Conroe right now.
I see.
And got me 2 fine grandchildren.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Grandsons, daughters, what?
I got me a granddaughter. She's 16 right now, and I have a grandson that just turned 6.
Then I know that later on you remarried again, and you have a couple of. What's your wife's name now?
I married a little girl from Port Arthur. Her name was Dorothy, and she had 2 fine daughters. And
What are their names?
the oldest one was named Tammy, and the youngest one was named Tricia.
Uh-huh.
Tammy got married. She got her family. Tricia, she's attending A&M right now.
I see.
Up at College Station.
There's a lot of females going to A&M these days, I think.
Yeah.
Is she enjoying it?
Oh man, she loves it.
Well, I know I talked to you here a couple of weekends ago, and you, I think y'all were going up there. She hurt herself, or?
Yeah, she was playing softball. Little girl's she's athletic as heck, and she was playing softball. And she stepped on first base too hard and kind of jammed her hip and chipped a little bone.
Oh boy. Well, speaking of athletics, let's get back to you. I know that you were pretty athletic. Did you play sports in school?
No, I wanted to and everything. I just evidently wasn't healthy enough, evidently. But I found a sport that I did like after I got out of school and got out of service and everything is golf, and I really love to play golf.
Well, I noticed your golf shirt on there. What's that emblem?
This is Curly. No, this is Columbia Lakes down at Angleton.
Well, several of you play golf. I know I've attempted to play golf a few times with you uncles, and
Yeah.
you, Uncle Maurice, Uncle Joe, Uncle Manny, I know all play golf. And were there any of the other ones that played golf?
Yeah. In fact, actually, everybody there's 4 of us that really get after it. It's me and your Uncle Joe and Uncle Manny and Uncle Maurice.
Uh-huh.
We've got nephews like yourself and David and Larry Clark and Jay and Manny Wade, Maurice's boys. They all love to play, but
Yeah.
outside of that, I don't. Everybody else likes singing and everything.
Well, Uncle Joe told me he was, of all the golfers in the family, he was El Primo #1.
He might be. As far as getting out there just enjoying yourself, but when you had to put the green stuff on the line, I like to think that I am.
Well, we'll have his interview a little later on and see what he's got to say about that. Some of these interviews have gotten some of y'all in a little bit of trouble. In fact, I was talking with Aunt Eunice up there here a while back at her place, and she made reference to what a nice-looking man you were, and still are, by the way.
I appreciate that.
And it hacked off some of the other ones. I don't understand it.
Well, they've...
Just jealous.
I guess that's what you call it, because there's a lot of jealousy in my family.
Yeah, we had quite a fun time with that. I took that little interview with Aunt Eunice up to Uncle Joe's and Uncle Manny's up on the lake, and they didn't appreciate that too much.
I heard about it and everything, but I enjoyed it.
Well, I'm glad we did manage to get you out of your Warner Brothers contract long enough to do this little interview.
Well, I appreciate it.
All right, now let's see. After you got out of the service and went to work for Phillips, then let's see. You quit Phillips along the way there someplace.
Yeah, I left Phillips in 1963.
What have you? Didn't you sell cars or something for a while?
Yes, I got in the automobile business with. I was introduced to the automobile business with Sam White Olds.
Uh-huh.
I was with them for a number of years, and they moved from downtown out on Beech Nut, so I wanted to come this way. So I changed allegiances and went with Bill McDavid O's.
I see. Well, what have you been doing in recent years now?
I'm with the ILA down at Port of Houston out at Barber's Cut. I'm in the clerks and checkers there. We check and make sure the right people get that cargo that comes off the ships down there.
Mm-hmm. Well, it looks like you're having a good, easy life, and down here fixing up your rent house and trying to get it rented out again.
Yeah, times are a little tough right now, but they're going to get better.
When are you going to get back up in the country at Uncle Joe's and his place up there?
Well, as soon as they get some money, because I'm tired of going up there playing for the fun of it.
Well, we appreciate you doing this little interview with us here, and hope that everything continues to go real well for you. And as soon as we get this thing all taped together and fixed up right, we're going to have us a little party. Good. And have all the family get together someplace. Aunt Eunice has volunteered her place, and then the other day David's got a country place up out of Woodville.
Yeah.
And he said we could have it up there, so we'll just have to see what would be the most convenient for everybody and get together and show this thing and talk about it and laugh and have some fun.
I just need a little notice, babe.
Okay. Good to talk with you.
Thank you, buddy.
We'll
Appreciate
be talking to you later. Give us a big old smile and a wave there. So long.
Bye-bye.
Well, this fella might be one of the Little Rascals, or it could be one of the original Dead End Gang, but actually this is my Uncle Joe. And in this picture, he was just in elementary school. I don't know what grade. Maybe he'll tell us about it a little bit later on in our interview. And here we see him again in this picture with the Campbell Junior Quartet that we talked about a little earlier, but this shows another close-up. He's about 15 or 16 years old here.
Well, here he is today. This is April the 29th, 1987, is that correct?
That's correct.
And we're in the office of my Uncle Joe. And just for the record, what is your name?
Joe.
Your full name, please.
Joe W. Campbell, or W stands for Weldon.
Well, I'm glad you cleared that up because it's been a mystery to us for years.
That's the reason they call it well done, and it sort of goes
Joe
together.
Well Done Campbell.
Most everything I do is very well done, so that's the reason I got that monocle.
Well, Uncle Joe, you're the next to the youngest one of the family. What does that make you with regard to the number that you are down from the top?
Well, from the top, I would be number 8.
Number 8. And everyone is still living today, except with the exception of Doyle.
Doyle, that's right.
Who was? Do you remember where he was in there?
Well, Doyle was between WC and I, which would make him just older than I.
I see. I couldn't remember if he was before or after Uncle WC.
No, he came after WC.
Well, let's get to talking a little personal with you here. When were you born?
I was born July the 25th, 1932.
And where were you born?
In Center, Texas, county of Shelby.
Okay, we got that cleared up with Uncle Maurice the last time.
Yeah, there's been some argument about my age over the years. When I went in the Marine Corps, I lied about my age and told them I was older than I am, and I got a birth certificate from our uncle who was county clerk in Center, and that he just took my word for it and gave me the birth certificate, and that's how I joined the Marine Corps.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I see. Well, let's follow along. You were born in 1932, you said?
Right.
And in Center, and then I know the family moved to Houston along the way there. How old were you when you moved into Houston?
I was just 5 years old when we moved to Houston.
So you hadn't started school yet even?
No, I started school in Houston, Texas.
And you remember the schools you went to?
Yes, I do. I have a distinction none of my other brothers have. I went to every school on the north side of Houston and every school on the east side of Houston. By that I mean that on the north side I started elementary school at Lamar Elementary School. We moved to the east side of Houston and I continued my grammar school or elementary school at Franklin Elementary School. From there I went to Edison Junior High School, and then we moved back to the north side, and then I went to Marshall Junior High School.
I see. So was there a reason for all those changes other than just moving? I understand you were quite a rowdy youngster.
Well, I was known to swap a little scar tissue with people from time to time.
In other words, you used to fight a lot, right?
I used to get in a scrap or two every now and then. This is true.
Well, that's what I'd heard. I didn't know if it was true or not.
It's true.
It's all true.
I've got the scars to show it.
Let's go back now. When you got out of school, what did you do?
When I got out of school, I joined the Marine Corps before I got out of school, and when I come out of the Marine Corps, I went to work for Daddy at Southern Motor Lines.
And talking to your other brothers, it seemed like almost every one of them worked for a while there with the motor lines.
Well, all of them worked there except Manny and Ed. Gene worked there for a brief period of time, and W.C. and I worked there probably longer than any of them. Manny never did. Of course, Aunt Eunice's husband, your Uncle John, he worked there for some time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think we've finally got tired of him goofing off. Me and W.C. carried him all the time. He won't like me saying that.
Is this your way of getting back at Aunt Eunice?
That's my way of getting back with Aunt Eunice. I seen her interview, and so I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Just for fun, right?
That's right, because I'm not a movie star like Uncle W.C. is. But I'm second best. I got a movie star sitting in the office with me.
I see. Okay. Well, when you got you worked for a while there with Southern Motor Freight or Southern Motor Lines with Papaw Campbell.
Yes,
and
that's right.
Then what job did you take after that?
Oh, Daddy fired me probably a dozen times. Every time I would get mad and goof off, he'd fire me, and then I would talk to the dock foreman and get the dock foreman to talk to Dad, and Dad would hire me back. And after a couple of years through all this, I found out that this was a little routine my dad and the dock foreman would do to get my attention, and it obviously worked.
Well, did you not get along well with your daddy, or what?
Oh, gosh, I got along so good with that man. Everybody he knew got along good with him.
Well, that's what I understand now. Your mother was a different story from what I understand.
Well, how do you mean that?
There were a few cases where you got on her nerves to some degree.
Oh, Mother would hit me with anything she could get her hands on. I would aggravate her so much.
Tell us about the story or the time when she chased you with a butcher knife or something.
No, it wasn't a butcher knife. Mother used to be a great trader. She would be driving down the street, and if she seen some old lumber or anything that somebody had tore a house down, she would try and deal with them for that lumber by trading this or that, and we would pile it up beside our house on Avenue I. And she would make me and W.C. and Manny would get a crowbar and a hammer and pull all the nails out of this lumber, and we would sell that lumber. And we were poor folks, and we had to make a dollar any way we could. And I used to aggravate her so much, and one time I got her so mad that she took that crowbar and threw it at me, and I ducked, and the crowbar lodged in the side of the house, and she ran over and grabbed me and started hugging me and kissing me, and the minute she found out, then she literally whipped the hell out of me with her hand.
Well, this story seems to have grown quite a bit over the years, as stories do, you know. At first it started out as a pocket knife and then a butcher knife, and now you're telling us it's a crowbar?
No, Mother never carried a knife. She But she was one of these people that firmly believed in spare the rod and spoil the child, where Daddy was probably the gentlest man until he got mad that ever lived. Dad probably never gave me a half a dozen lickings in my life, and Mother's whipped me till she just got so tired she couldn't whip me no more. Of course, she always knew what she was doing, and one of the finest ladies that ever lived.
Yeah, well, that's what I understand. I remember her quite well too, because I was old enough to remember her a lot more than I was Papa.
I remember one time Mother, I used to get amazed at the difference she would show between her own kids and her grandkids. And of course, you know my son Herman, and when Herman was born, he only weighed 1 pound and 15 ounces. And of course, Mother lived with me for several years prior to her death, and she took care of Herman from the time he was just a few months old and until she passed away. And I was working shift work, and I came home one day, and I used to aggravate Mother because she never would let us whip any of the grandkids when she was around. And here's a woman that just would whip our tail anytime we got out of line. So I had Herman in the bathroom, and I slapped my hands together like this, like I'd spanked him, and I was fully clothed and just drew me a tub of bath water to take a bath. And the minute she heard that, she came running in the bathroom and hit me right upside the head and knocked me fully clothed into that bathtub full of water.
Oh, boy.
And I said, now, isn't this a hell of a note? Here's a 65-year-old woman done knocked me right on my can in my own house, and there's not a damn thing I can do about it. And that's the true story. Barbara Ann will verify that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's get back to your family, your immediate family. I know you made mention of Herman Doyle there, and you have another son too.
Yes, I have a boy that's from my first marriage, Joey Ray, who is, Joey Ray's 32 now, I think.
Uh-huh.
And he and Herman live together now in a house I have over in Pasadena.
Well, that's interesting.
And Joey Ray is a fine young man, too. He's working with the Sheriff's Department here in Harris County now and doing quite well.
Mm-hmm.
Got married, as a matter of fact, just recently, and I just found out just a couple, 3 weeks ago that I'm going to be a grandpa about September of this year.
Oh, really?
I'm the only brother that don't have grandkids.
Well, you'll get there.
Oh, yeah.
Just keep working
I
on
hope
it.
so.
You can go ahead and answer that.
All right. Yes.
Okay, we're back here now. We're talking about your sons, and you're telling us that Joey Ray got married a while back, and you're going to be a grandfather soon, huh?
That's right. And Joey Ray is a strapping guy, about 6'3". Good basketball player. He was a boxer. He fought professionally a couple of times, and I was afraid he was going to get his brains rattled, so I talked him out of that. He still likes to, but he's...
Yeah, I think I saw him in a fight against Spinks one night on Friday Night Boxing.
No, it wasn't Spinks, but I believe he could have took Spinks. I really do.
You might have could have knocked a few more teeth out, huh?
That's true.
Then you married a lady named, I know her Aunt Barbara. I don't know what her background or her maiden name or anything was.
Her maiden name, number one, she happened to be the most beautiful woman in the world and still is. She's put up with me for 30 years. And there's a lot to be said for that. But her maiden name was actually Richards, is her real father. She changed her name to Hughes, which is her stepfather. Her mother and father got a divorce when she was very young. And she changed her name to Hughes when she was about 5 years old, and that's what she was all these years up until the time we got married.
Well, y'all lived most of your married life together now in the Pasadena area, right?
Yeah, we lived either in Pasadena or right at the edge of Pasadena. We lived in an area called Oak Meadows for many years, but most of our married life we've been in Pasadena.
And then I know for a time there, you and a couple of your brothers worked out at one of the chemical plants.
Yeah, Gene, your father, and myself and W.C. worked at Phillips. Your dad worked out there about 10, 11 years, and I think W.C. worked out there about the same length of time. And I'm still employed out there. I'm on union leave. I've been on union leave for 10 years.
Well, I know that brings us up to where you are now. You're currently with the...
Well, I'm with the Oil, Chemical, and Atomic Workers Union. I'm president of District 4 of OCAW, which is Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi. I'm also a vice president of the Texas FL-CIO, and I'm secretary-treasurer of this local union, 4227.
And you do a lot of traveling now, don't you?
Quite a bit of traveling, yes.
Mm-hmm. Is that fun for you?
It was at first. It gets to be not so much fun as the years go by.
Yeah,
you get tired of it.
Those of us who've traveled a lot understand that.
Yeah, a little bit of that goes a long way.
That's right. So that brings us up to where you are now, and I know you've got a beautiful place up on Lake Livingston up there. Is Aunt Barbara living up there full-time now, or what?
No, we still have our home in Pasadena. We spend about half the time at Lake Livingston at our lake house and about the other half here. And your Aunt Barbara retired last year, and I'm going to retire at the end of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to live up there for the rest of our lives, I would imagine.
I see. Okay. All right, well, it's... let me think of something else I wanted to ask you, and I can't think of what it is now, but... oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. I was talking with Uncle W.C., and he was telling us that when he was in school, he didn't really play any sports, but after he got out of school, he got interested in some sports, and especially golfing.
Yeah, W.C. is an excellent golfer. He plays probably to a 4 or 5 handicap. He can't beat me. He would like to be able to beat me, but he gets there every now and then. But
well, I'll let you hear his interview with remarks to that regard.
Oh, I can imagine what W.C. said, but we all know W.C. lies.
Well, here's what he said was that you're a pretty good golfer, but when it comes to the green, when it really counts,
yeah,
that he considers himself El Primo #1.
Well, he's number one. I wouldn't say it would be El Primo.
#1 in the hearts of the fans, anyway, right?
He's El Primo choker. 'Cause he's the only guy I've ever seen that could leave a 6-inch putt short.
Oh, boy.
That does it.
Well, it's been really fun interviewing you, and I'm glad we got to come back and do it here in your office, so it'll be a little bit
Well,
more
I'm glad you did too.
natural setting, and I understand you've got a good friend of yours visiting with you today.
I have a gentleman in my office with me today that is not a good friend, he's a great friend, and he's someone that I've become very close to. And I've asked him to do many, many things that he's done for me that he would charge a lot of other people for. And for those of you that's going to be watching this tape, this guy is a star of stage, screen, and television. And again, like I say, I've become very close to him, and I think he to me. And he's came out and he's met most of the family. And I'd like to introduce him to you this time. It's James Drury, star of the Virginian television show that was on for many, many years and still playing now.
Well, I used to watch his show every week on TV, and I just know him as the Virginian.
Well, I still watch it every week, and I can understand after watching it now why they took it off of television.
Well, here we go with Mr. James Drury.
Thank you.
And I understand you've got, you had a poem that you wanted to read to us.
Well, Joe and I were talking back around Christmas time about some material that I was trying to put together, or some ideas for some material to do some public service spots for the Texas Veterans Land Program for Gary Morrow, the Texas State Land Commissioner, who's a good friend of Joe's and who I've come to know. And he had gotten a Christmas card from or a Christmas message from someone, which I think is kind of appropriate to perhaps include in the Campbell Family Chronicles, as these
Sure.
series of interviews are, because it is the kind of thing that you'll want to look at when you think about the history of a family. And it's a stirring piece, and it was very appropriate for what I was looking for, and I hope to be able to include parts of it in the public service spots that we're going to be able to make shortly, I hope. But it's called Times Gone By, and the author is unknown, and it goes like this. Sing me the old songs. Tell me the stories of times gone by. I want to spend an evening or so with you to hear about your dogs. I want to see your guns. I want to read your favorite books. I want to warm my hands in front of your fire and try your pipe tobacco and taste your whiskey. I want to see the old brown pictures you've always saved. The pictures of the stern-faced men wearing hip boots and brown overalls with rusty wool caps pulled down over their eyes. The pictures of men who wore neckties and soft flannel shirts and breeches and leggings standing by braces of stiff-necked, rib-sprung pointers with the quail wagons behind them. I want to see yourself in a blue work shirt buttoned at the neck with your kitchen haircut and your 22 and that big-eyed pup. Do you remember all the names? Tell me them. Talk to me about the horses. Talk to me about the dogs and the L.C. Smith, the Parker, the Baker, the Lefevre, and the Ainsley H. Fox. Tell me about the cold and the wind and the sea and the river and the kettle pond. Tell me about fill my mind with pictures of your prairies, your swamps, your sedge fields, your mountains and your endless plains. Tell me, too, about the times you didn't shoot for some sweet reason of your own. I want to hear the stories about Charlie and Jimmy and Ed. Did they build a fire? Did they get lost? Did they track? Make me laugh with the stories about the day Herb never got a shot and old Bell brought him a quail still warm that you found and put it in his hand. Let me hold the puppy on my lap. Let me scratch the old dog's belly while she warms her backside by the fire. Fill my glass again and pass me the wooden bowl with the apples in it. Talk to me about the bee tree cutting. Tell me how deep the ice pond was. Show me how you call ducks. Tell me how you make a rabbit stew. Who was the best shot you ever saw? Who always got his buck? What's your favorite excuse of all the ones you've heard? Why is it, do you suppose, that men have stopped telling lies the way they used to do? Take me with you to the places with the names I like. Take me to the Superstition Mountains where the white wing and mourning doves come in flights like feathered clouds. Take me along the gentle curvings of the Tombic Bee. Show me bighorn sheep that feed above the Prophet River, and the elk along the Yellowstone, and the Badlands bear picking berries, and the woodcock flighting to the Merrimack, and the wild turkey in the dismal swamp. Time does not exist where these things never change. Listen, don't you hear the same quail call and mallard stutters as the men in the faded brown pictures? Sing me the old songs. Tell me the story of times gone by.
Gosh, that's a great poem.
I wish Jim would have knew my dad. They would have liked each other very much.
Well, thank you, Joe. I think it's the kind of thing that we all need to remember, and through the marvels of television, of being able to record something like this for a family, it'll be something that your great-grandchildren will be able to show to their great-grandchildren about the times gone by.
Yeah, I hope
true.
so.
I appreciate being included.
Listen, I was glad to have you with us. And Eunice, WC is not a movie star, but this guy is. So remember that the next time you start praising one brother and leaving the rest of us out.
Well, on those words of wisdom, we'll leave this interview, and it's been nice talking to you and also your guest, the Virginian, James Drury. And we'll look forward to getting this fixed up, edited, and put together, and then we'll all take a look at it.
You got a deal.
Give us a big old grin and a wave there.
See you. Thank you. That was...
Here's another of those pictures of Mama and Papa I really like. This one shows them standing maybe out in front of a yard or something with Aunt Johnny there in front, Uncle Maurice in the back, Uncle Walter Clark in the back, and Uncle Joe on the left there. And that's all three of the younger brothers, and one of them is missing. We're going to have an interview with the last one here in just 1 minute. Well, these guys are not really twins, and I'm not sure. Might be the beaver. What do you think? But I just couldn't decide on which picture was the cutest to show, so I decided to show both of them. Yeah, and this shot really does look like Wally and the Beaver, doesn't it? No, but actually this is a picture of my Uncle Manny Campbell. And I'd bet this picture was made somewhere along high school thereabouts, because I know according to him, he was the most popular guy in his high school. But we'll listen a little bit more about his life story here in just a second.
What is your name, sir?
My name is Jose Jimenez.
Mr. Jimenez, what are you doing on this film of the Campbell family here?
I have no idea. I was out working in the yard. They said, get your little buddy in here. So I did. What am I supposed to do?
So you came on in, huh?
Listen, when two bigger guys like it, they tell you to come in, you come in.
I see. Well, I do understand, though, that you are a Campbell. You may go by
Possibly.
Go by many aliases, I've
I'm
been
not
told.
too sure to tell you the truth.
But I understand that your name is really Mr. Manny Martin Campbell. Is that correct?
That's what they call me,
That's what they call it.
among other things.
And Mr. Campbell, when were you born, please?
I was born about 11 o'clock at night.
About 11 o'clock at night. On what date, please?
I'm not too sure. They tell me one day, then they tell me another day. I think someplace around November 22nd. I'm not too sure of the year either.
November 22nd, some year in the distant past, right?
Oh, it's been a long time ago.
A long time ago. Mr. Campbell, where were you born?
In the hospital.
In which hospital?
One that serves the medicine.
It serves the medicine in what city?
I'm not too sure. I think it was in a space.
In outer space. Well, Mr. Campbell, I understand that you really were living down around the Houston area. Were you born in Houston, or were you born up in center Shelby County?
Oh, no, 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 no.
Do it right.
I was born in Center, Texas, like the rest of those slobs.
It sounds like you had a voice of authority come from the from off stage there someplace.
Oh, well, what you gonna do?
You were born in Center, Texas also. So
Oh,
the whole-
yes, yes.
So the whole Campbell family were born in Center, Texas?
As far as I know.
I see. And you do know pretty far, from what I've been told.
I don't know. I wear glasses, but I know pretty far.
He's the youngest. We all had to be born there.
I see. Well, then you moved to Houston, Texas, and you went to school there, I'm sure.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What school did you go to?
I went to Franklin and John Marshall and Jeff Davis.
Franklin, John Marshall, and Jeff Davis. And when you got out of school, Mr. Campbell, what did you do then?
And I went in the Marine Corps.
Did you marry first, or did you?
No, no. I went in service, and then I got married after I got out of service.
So you were in, I thought someone had told me you were in the Navy.
I went in the Navy later on.
Now, wait a minute, I'm a little puzzled here. You were in the Marines, and then you went into the Navy.
I served at Hitchin Marines. I got out in 1955, and I went back in the Navy in 1960.
Were you kind of a past version of Rambo, or what are we talking here?
No, I had to get out of town quick, and that was the only way I could figure out to do it.
So when did you marry?
I married in 1956.
1956. That's while you were in the Marines?
No, I'd gotten out of the Marines. It was less than a year after I got out of the Marines I got married.
I see. And what's the lady's name that you married?
Glenda Joyce.
Glenda Joyce, and her maiden name?
It was Goff.
Goff.
Mm-hmm.
Was she from the Houston area also?
Well, she was living in Houston at the time. She's an old country girl that moved down to Houston early in her life.
From where?
From a little place called Burkeville, Texas.
Burkeville, Texas. I see. So you and Miss Glenda Joyce lived there in Houston, or that area?
Mm-hmm.
After you got out of the service, what did you do?
Oh, I'd done a little bit of everything. I worked mainly on the waterfront in Houston.
I see. Well, what is it called? Stevedore, longshoreman?
And I was a shipping agent for 10 or 12 years, and then I worked in the ship channeling business for a few years, and then I worked down on the waterfront as a stevedore superintendent.
I see. Well, some of your family members tell me you're a gentleman with quite a sense of humor and one of the best joke tellers around that I've...
And I laugh a lot.
You do? I understand you tell some real funny jokes, too.
Well, it depends on who I'm telling them to.
And what the rating is, of course, also.
Oh, yes, oh, yes.
Well, after you and Miss Glenda Joyce married, did you have any children?
Yes, we had 2 children.
I see. And what were their names?
Belinda Ray and Marty.
Belinda Ray, your daughter, was she the oldest one?
Uh-huh.
I see. And how old would Belinda Ray be now?
She's about 31 now.
31. And I understand your son Marty passed away.
Yes.
I see. Did you have any grandchildren?
Yeah, I've got one. Her name is Joyce Catherine.
I see. She's the little girl that was running around here a little while ago?
Right. If she had any patience, she'd still be here in my lap.
She's a cute little girl. You, I understand, have a home up here on the lake also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I live right beside my brother Joe.
Now, I understand from him that he travels up here on the weekends.
Yeah.
Still works in Houston.
We try to figure a way to keep him in Houston, but there's no way. He got such a nice wife, he has to come up every now and then.
He still finds some time to get up here.
Oh, yeah.
But you live up here full time now.
Oh, yes.
So you're retired?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What are your hobbies up here, Mr. Campbell?
About the same as Joe. I just play a little golf every now and then and go out on a fishing boat with him. I don't fish, but I go out on a boat with him.
You do?
Yeah.
And somebody told me you like to barbecue over there.
Oh, I love to barbecue, yes.
That sounds good. Maybe we can get you to do a little bit, little
Plan
later
on
for
doing a
us.
little bit of that tonight.
Great. What kind of foods do you like?
It's kind of like Joe said. Seafood, anything I say I eat.
Kind of the same story. Seems to run in your family, huh?
Oh, yeah, we're big eaters.
I was talking to a couple of your brothers before about the size of your family and what a talented group they all are. Do you sing also?
Oh, we used to do a little singing.
Do you
Nothing outstanding.
Does any of the family members play any musical instruments?
No, they're all musically inclined but me.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, they all play different type of instruments.
Well, that's not what I hear. I understand you're quite a proficiando with the keyboards.
Well, I learned how to play a boogie-woogie one time strictly out of self-defense.
And how was that?
Well, I just taught myself how to play one song, one tune, and that was it. And every time they start getting smart, I play my boogie-woogie.
Well, you know, in interviewing you, you seem to have quite a low voice. When you were singing with your family, what part did you sing?
Well, I sang bass the latter few years. I used to sing high tenor.
Oh, from high tenor to bass.
Well, that's where it goes with some guys.
Sometimes it goes the other way, I understand, too.
Well, I used to use a fish hook when I played golf to keep my head down. I learned how to do that, too.
I see. I see. I heard a few stories about you. One was about when you were a very young man. You sang with some kind of a youth gospel group or something?
Oh, we've had different type of groups. We started off singing with our father just because we had to. Either to get knocked in the head, and then we branched off and made different groups. We've had 2 or 3 different groups. We had a Campbell Jr. quartet, and then, like Gene said, we had a Campbell Brothers and Ruby quartet. It's just one of those things. The whole family sings.
Well, someone told me that, or mentioned that the Campbell Jr. quartet won some contests or something at one time.
No, we come close a couple of times.
Campbell family won the Ted Mack.
We were on the Ted Mack show as a Campbell family.
I see.
Whenever he come down to Houston, had a big show down in the Coliseum there in Houston.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like your family really had quite a history. Are there any things about your family that maybe your other brothers and sisters might not be aware of?
Nothing I can think of. I mean, we're all aware of pretty much of everything in the family.
I understand. Well,
Good
Mr.
or
Campbell,
bad.
I'm sorry?
Good or bad.
Good or bad. We prefer to think about the good part, though,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Well, how do you like living up here on the lake?
It's outstanding.
How long have you lived up here now?
I've been up here almost a year now.
Almost a year, and you moved here directly from Houston?
Oh, yeah. Well, from Pasadena, a suburb of Houston.
You still have your place in Pasadena that you visit?
Yes,
And your daughter still lives down there?
well, she's not living. I'm not. Her and her husband just recently moved, and I'm not sure where they're living now.
Your wife mentioned to me earlier they're living in a trailer house.
I think so. They've rented them a trailer someplace.
I see. Do they get up to visit you often?
Not too often. Just once in a great while.
I see. Well, it's been real nice interviewing you, Mr. Campbell. Or would you like to tell us a good joke?
Well, I can't
Keep it
think
clean now. This is a family. This is G-rated films we're talking here.
Well, I haven't had quite enough to drink to think of any good jokes other than the guy that went to the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist told him he was crazy, and he said, I'd like a second opinion. The psychiatrist said, all right, you're ugly too. Of course, the same guy goes to another psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist says, what seems to be your problem? He says, well, nobody wants to talk to me. The psychiatrist says, next.
Well, this sounds more like the Mr. Manny Campbell that I've heard so much about. It sounds like someone might be calling you over there, so we're going to kind of wrap up this interview for now, and it's been real nice talking with you, Mr. Campbell. Any thoughts you'd like to leave us with?
Well, the only thing I can think of, like you was asking Joe and Gene a while ago, if they knew they were going to die the next day or within the next 24 hours, what would they say to the world? The only thing I can think of is, please don't let them do this to me.
Well, that's the Carroll and Beulah Campbell family. I really hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed putting it together for you. And it sure brought back a lot of pleasant memories for me. Maybe we can look back on this thing in years to come, and one of these days when our kids and grandkids get older, want to know what their uncles and aunts and everyone back in those days looked like, we can show them this video, and it will be a lot of fun for them. Well, like I said before, this is the way I remember Mama and Papa. And now with this videotape, you can remember them the same way too, just by looking back at this picture of them. I I'll always see them like this with that smile on their face.